I never liked family dinners, but I always showed up. Part of me hoped that one day, something would change, that maybe my parents would look at me the way they looked at Selene, my older sister. That maybe they'd finally see me, hear me, not as a burden, not as a mistake, but just as their son. But this night, this was different. It was grander than usual. My mother's voice was sharper, my father's jokes more performative. The long oak table at the center of their estate's dining room gleamed like it had been polished by angels. Silver platters and crystal glasses glittered under the chandelier, and servants floated through the room like ghosts. I didn't belong there, but I came anyway. Selene sat at the head of the table beside my father. She wore confidence like a crown, dressed in a velvet emerald gown with diamond earrings that screamed, "I win." She was everything my parents bragged about at golf clubs, fundraisers, and luxury luncheons. CEO of a health tech company at 28. Named in a 30 under 30 list, Instagram, perfect, endlessly praised, and me, I was the invisible one. Quiet, a reader, a builder. I wasn't interested in parties or cars or being loud. I built software, worked on quiet ideas. Nothing flashy, nothing worth talking about apparently. As I slipped into my seat at the far end of the table, I could already feel it, the rehearsed smiles, the sideways glances. Dinner was a parade of shallow chatter and subtle slaps. My parents kept asking Selene questions and ignoring my answers whenever I tried to speak. "I just closed Series B funding," she beamed. 13 million. The table erupted in claps and gasps. Champagne was poured. That's when my father stood everyone. He said, lifting his glass, "We have an announcement, a family decision." I glanced up. Family decision. He placed a hand on Selene's shoulder and smiled like a politician. "We're incredibly proud of Selene. Her success is a reflection of everything we hoped for our legacy. So we've decided, effective immediately, we are transferring a gift of $13 million into a trust for her future endeavors." More applause. Cameras flashed. I froze. 13 million. My chest tightened, but I stayed silent. I didn't want to make a scene, but the ache was there, clawing inside my ribs. And then my mother turned to me, face gleaming with thinly veiled amusement. As for Illy, she laughed lightly, like I was a footnote. "Well, some people bloom later in life, right, sweetheart?" My stomach twisted. Everyone was looking at me, smirking. My uncle leaned over and chuckled. "What have you been up to, Illy?" "Still working on those little coding things. Apps," I replied quietly. "Apps," he repeated mockingly. "Like games." Selene sipped her wine, not even pretending to defend me. My father gave me that same look he always had, disappointment glazed in condescension. I looked down at my plate. I wasn't embarrassed, I was tired. I tried to hold onto my breath, to my dignity, but then my mother leaned in and whispered, not softly enough. "You'll never be more than a shadow, Illy. Let Selene shine. It's her time." That did it. I stood up slowly. The room quieted. My chair scraped against the floor. A quiet scream in a room full of judgment. I looked at each of them. "Not angry, just done, thank you," I said quietly. They blinked. "For what?" My father said, smirking. "For making your choice so clear." A beat of silence. Selene tilted her head. "Illy, don't be dramatic. It's not a competition." "No," I said. "It never was. You won before I was even born." I reached into my jacket and placed a small box on the table. My gift, handmade, a gesture I spent weeks crafting for our parents. A digital photo frame with years of memories I'd compiled from old tapes and digitized for them. Thoughtful, personal, forgotten. "I won't waste your time anymore," I added. I looked at Selene one last time. I didn't hate her. I envied her, maybe, pitied her in some distant way. But I realized then, I wasn't just angry at them. I was angry at myself for thinking they would ever change. Without another word, I walked out of the room. No one followed me. No one called my name, not even once. Outside, the wind cut through my coat, but it felt better than the suffocating warmth of that room. As I stepped into the night, I looked up at the stars. They were quiet, constant, unlike people. That's when I heard a voice behind me. "You don't belong with them," it said calmly. I turned. A man stood at the end of the driveway, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Dressed in black, sharp eyes, calm, deliberate energy. Who are you? I asked. He offered a slight smile. Someone who knows what it feels like to be betrayed by those who should have loved you. I stayed silent. He extended a card, Orion Vale, a name I'd never heard, but unlike you. He continued. I didn't walk away, I came back. His gaze held mine. When you're ready, Illy, he said, come find me. He turned and walked off into the darkness. I looked down at the card in my hand, then back at the glowing mansion behind me, the laughter still echoing through the windows. And I smiled for the first time that night. They thought they buried me. They didn't know I was a seed. They didn't look for me. Not even once, not a message, not a call, not a knock at my apartment door. To them, my absence was a relief, like finally scraping off something they thought was holding them back. It hurt, but pain makes you careful, and careful people don't forget. I moved out of the city 3 days after the dinner, just packed a single bag, closed the door behind me, and vanished like smoke. No goodbye, no forwarding address. I deleted social media, burned every bridge back to them. I didn't just leave their world, I erased myself from it. The card Orion gave me stayed in my wallet for weeks, untouched, but I read the name over and over in the quiet hours, like a secret prayer. Orion Vale, I finally reached out on a cold morning in late March. Simple message, just 5 words, you said I'd be ready. He replied 2 minutes later. Come to 54 Harker Street, don't be late. The building looked abandoned from the outside, peeling paint, boarded windows, and an unlit neon sign that once said cafe, but now just blinked FE. But inside, it was something else, clean, sleek. Silent machines hummed along the walls, and digital boards lit up with names I didn't recognize, tech companies, hedge funds, biotech startups. Welcome to the Fracture, Orion said as I stepped in. He stood beside a massive table covered in blueprints, financial reports, and family trees. Yes, family trees, your family, he said, gesturing for me to sit, has hurt more people than you know. I sat, unsure. He tapped a file and slid it toward me. Inside, photos, documents, contracts. My father's company had wiped out small family businesses through forced buyouts and predatory loans. Cellini's startup, funded with capital laundered through shell investments. My mother, a silent partner in offshore accounts that bled pension funds dry. They built a golden castle, Orion said, but every brick is stolen. I stared at the documents in silence. How do you know all this? I finally asked. Orion leaned back. Because your father did it to mine. He bought out our land at half its worth, broke every agreement he made, and left us with nothing. My mother died 2 years later. No health care, no help. He didn't flinch when he said it. His voice was steel. Why help me then? He looked at me carefully. Because unlike them, you didn't choose cruelty. You just suffered it. And so the ghost year began. We worked from the shadows. Orion, myself, and a handful of people he called the Thread. Lawyers, engineers, analysts. All of them had stories like mine, abandoned, betrayed, left behind by the powerful. We didn't attack immediately. No fire, no headlines, just pressure. First, we bought up small shares in Cellini's company, quietly, through dummy corporations. Then we leaked small, nearly imperceptible flaws in her product to regulators. Nothing massive, just enough to trigger delays. Those delays caused investors to panic. Then we hit the patents. Turns out, her company was built on code that was never properly licensed. A quiet lawsuit began to circle like a vulture. Meanwhile, we traced every dollar of my parents' investments. One by one, their passive income streams dried up. Orion's team hacked their offshore accounts, not to steal, but to expose. We sent files to journalists, auditors, whistleblowers. The cracks started to show. Cellini's smile began to falter on interviews. My mother stopped posting her weekly brunches and yacht days on Instagram. My father, the invincible businessman, quietly resigned from 2 boards, citing personal time. But none of it was loud. Not yet. It was surgical, slow, precise. I watched them from the outside, never interfering directly. Every time I was tempted to reach out, to shout, see what happens when you discard people like garbage. Orion would stop me. Don't get emotional, he said. We're not here for revenge. We're here for the truth, but the best part. They didn't even know it was me, not yet. Until one night, almost exactly a year after that dinner, Seleni's assistant walked into her office holding a business card. "There's someone here to see you," she said. Selene didn't even look up. "Tell them I'm busy. He says he's your brother." Silence. Selene slowly turned her head. "What?" Her assistant hesitated. He said to give you this." She handed over the card. Selene took it, flipped it over. Her face turned white. The name printed in silver foil, Orion Vale CEO Mirror Ink. Selene sat down. "Hard, bring him in." She whispered. I didn't walk in with fury. I walked in calm. That's what scared her the most. She stood when I entered, hesitating between a hug and a slap. I didn't offer either. "I thought you disappeared," she said. "I did." I replied. "You didn't notice." She swallowed hard. "What do you want, Illy?" I looked around her office, all glass and steel, now cold and dim. The nameplate on her desk seemed smaller than I remembered. "I want to talk," I said simply, "about family, about choices." "You've ruined everything," she snapped. "Do you have any idea what I've been through this year?" "You mean the lawsuits, the investors pulling out, the delayed IPO?" I listed calm. "Yes, I'm aware. You've been planning this." "No," I said. "You planned it the moment you helped them bury me." She looked away. "You think this is justice?" she whispered. I tilted my head. "No, this is clarity. Justice is what comes next." I left the building before security could be called. Selene didn't follow. Outside, Orion waited. "She'll tell them." I said, "Good." He replied. We stood under the same stars I once stared at the night they broke me. But this time I wasn't alone, and I wasn't the shadow anymore. The invitation came in a thick white envelope embossed in gold. Family emergency meeting, October 3rd. Attendance mandatory. As if I was still part of the family. I almost laughed, but I showed up. Not because I wanted to see them suffer, though I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a flicker of satisfaction, but because I wanted to finish it. End the performance, dismantle the throne of delusion they had built, brick by brick. I arrived early, dressed in black, not for drama, but because it was honest. Grief still lived inside me, not for them, but for the boy who once just wanted to be loved. The mansion hadn't changed. Same towering pillars, same iron gates, same curated gardens hiding roots full of rot, but the people inside, different, nervous, tight, lipped shadows under their eyes. Selene was already in the main hall when I arrived, pacing. She froze when she saw me. "You came," she said, sounding surprised. I nodded. "I always show up." She flinched. "Just a little." My parents walked in together 5 minutes later. My father looked older, the weight of crumbling business empires hung on his shoulders like a wet coat. My mother still wore designer, but her rings were gone, her confidence too. "Illy," she said, like she was testing the word in her mouth. "I heard you've had a tough year," I said gently. My father scoffed. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "It's familiar." Selene shifted uncomfortably. "Why are you here?" I walked slowly to the center of the room and pulled out a file from my bag. I laid it on the table. Financial records, lawsuit breakdowns, whistleblower reports, all of it, because you called a meeting, I replied. So I brought the truth. My mother glanced at the file. "What is this?" "Everything you've built and how you built it. The people you buried to climb higher, the small businesses, the land grabs, the stolen code, the fake shelf funds. I traced every dollar, every lie." My father stepped forward, his voice rising. "You have no right. I have every right." I snapped, the first time my voice cracked in anger. "Because while you were pouring millions into Selene's empire, you were mocking me for being a loser. You gave her $13 million, and you gave me nothing but shame." My mother crossed her arms. "You never showed ambition, Illy. You were soft. You disappeared for a year. What did you expect?" "I expected decency," I said coldly. "But I learned something better." I pulled out one last document, a single piece of paper. I slid it toward them. My father hesitated. Selene stepped forward and read it first. Her mouth fell open. It was a letter of acquisition. Mirror Inc., the quiet, rising tech firm they had tried to ignore, had just acquired major controlling shares in Selene's company. "Effective last week," I said. "You report to us now." Her hands trembled. "You can't." I looked at her. "I can, and I did." My father turned red, will sue. I shook my head. You're welcome to try, but you won't win. Everything was clean, legal, documented. You built your world on deception and forgotten people. I just reminded them. I turned to leave, but stopped at the door. Then I said it, the line I had written and rewritten in my head for months. You spent your life calling me a shadow, but shadows only exist because of light. I wasn't your failure, I was your reflection. And with that, I walked out. That night, I sat across from Orion on the rooftop of the Mirror Inc. office. City lights blinked beneath us. I could breathe again. It's done, I said. Orion raised an eyebrow. Is it? I paused. Maybe not, but something had shifted. I didn't feel hate anymore. Just distance. Clean, necessary distance. I don't need their apology, I said. Or their approval. Orion smirked. That's how you know you've won. The next morning, headlines whispered, Falling Star, Selene Vance's startup acquired in silent power play. Old money, new ghosts, the Vance family empire cracks under pressure. Who is Orion Vale? Meet the shadow behind the rise of Mirror Inc. But my name wasn't in the headlines. I didn't want it to be, not anymore. Some victories don't need applause. Some stories don't need to be told with fireworks. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It's walking away from a burning castle without smelling like smoke. Epilogue 2 months later, I got a letter. No return address, handwritten, just 3 lines. You were right. I don't know who I am without them, but maybe now I'll find out. Selene, I folded it carefully, stored it in a drawer, not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of something real.